Hey, good morning, everybody. So I hope that you are all ready for another wonderful story time. Happy Tuesday. I know that it's a little dreary outside, but it's not too bad. Could be worse. Could be snowing. I'm having a little bit of coffee this morning. What do you like to drink when you first get up in the morning? Because I have a feeling that coffee is not your first go-to. Well, not for some of you. I like to have coffee, but I like to have a big glass of water when I first wake up. We don't usually have a lot of juice in our house, so I don't have a lot of juice. But coffee, sometimes tea. Tea makes me feel comforted and cozy. All right, enough of Miss Karen talking, because that's not what you're here for. You are here to hear a story. So I have a bunch of stories from which to choose today. And I think, that maybe, how about we do Hansel and Gretel? Hansel and Gretel. I like Hansel and Gretel. Do you like Hansel and Gretel? See? Hansel and Gretel. All right. Look at that cute little house. Look at that cute little house that's probably all made out of candy and cookies. I know a lot of you would like to have candy cookie houses right now. Except then where would you live? Alrighty. So, long ago, a woodcutter lived on the edge of a large forest with his 2 children and his wife, who was the children's stepmother. The woodcutter's son was called Hansel, and his daughter, Gretel. Though the woodcutter worked hard, he was very poor. One year, there was a terrible famine, and the woodcutter had no more food for his family. The woodcutter's wife complained that the whole family would soon die of hunger. So she spoke to her husband one night, telling him that he must take the children deep in the woods and leave them there. But Hansel heard them talking and told Gretel of the stepmother's idea. The children were very, very frightened. And then Hansel made a plan. Why is it always a stepmother who's evil? There are some very nice stepmothers out there. They get a bad rap, I think. Okay. So later that night, Hansel sneaked outside and gathered as many white pebbles as his jacket pockets would hold. The next morning, the stepmother told Hansel and Gretel that the family was going to gather firewood in the forest. As they walked deep into the woods, Hansel would stop now and then, and he would look back towards the house. His stepmother scolded him for being slow, but he was really dropping the white pebbles to mark the way home. When they finally stopped, the woodcutter built a big fire and left the children some crusts of bread for their supper. He told them he would be back when he was finished working. See, look at them all. And you can see Hansel dropping his stones. I think that the father is equally to blame in this situation. Knowing that their father wouldn't be back, Hansel and Gretel slept for a while by the fire, waiting for nightfall. Then, with the moonlight shining on the pebbles, they followed Hansel's trail home. "You bad children!" cried the stepmother when she saw them in the morning. "Why did you sleep so long in the forest?" But she was secretly angry that they had returned. The next day, the woman had her husband lead Hansel and Gretel back into the woods again. This time, the woodsman led them still deeper into the forest. Hansel had not had time to gather pebbles, so he crumbled his bread and left a trail of crumbs instead, which I think is very smart. It was very smart of Hansel to think of that. See, look, there's the 2 of them. Look at how he holds her hand. See, that's how a big brother should be. Always taking care of the sister. Hansel and Gretel slept until the moon rose. Then they searched for the path of breadcrumbs. I bet you know what happened. The bread had been eaten up by the birds in the forest, so they could not find their way home. They searched until they had to stop and sleep. Then they searched again the next morning. Gretel saw a beautiful white bird that sang so sweetly they followed it as it flew from branch to branch. Soon they found themselves in a small field where they saw the most amazing house. The house was made of gingerbread with a roof of icing. Even the windows were made of sugar. The children were so hungry they didn't even stop to think. They each broke off pieces of the house and started to eat. Look at that. Look at them just going right up there eating somebody's house. I mean, I get that they were hungry. No sooner had they stuffed their mouths than they heard a gentle voice calling, "Nibble, nibble like a mouse. Who's that nibbling at my house?" The door opened, and there stood an old woman leaning on a heavy cane. Hansel and Gretel were so frightened they dropped what they were eating. But the woman only smiled and invited them in. Seeing how hungry and tired they were, she gave them a wonderful dinner of pancakes and apples. That sounds like an amazing dinner to me. Then she put them right to bed, as kind as any grandmother. Hansel and Gretel did not know that the woman who seemed so nice was really a wicked witch. Look at them so happy. Have you ever had pancakes for dinner? I have. Breakfast food for dinner sometimes it's really the best. And it feels like you're having dinner and dessert all at the same time when you have pancakes for dinner. Before Hansel and Gretel awoke the next morning, the witch carried Hansel to a little cage she had built and locked him inside. "Now," she cackled, "I'll fatten him up. He'll make a tasty bite for me to eat." Then she woke poor Gretel and ordered her to fetch water and cook food for Hansel, for she wanted him to grow plump. Hansel and Gretel cried and begged to be set free, but the witch just laughed. Each day, the witch, who could not see very well, asked to feel Hansel's finger through the bars of his cage. But he cleverly gave her only an old bone to feel, so that she thought he was still much too thin for her to eat. See? Look at that. Look at that little bone. Poor Gretel. They didn't know what was going to happen to them when they started noshing on someone else's house. And then this kind old woman turned into a nasty. 4 weeks went by. 4 weeks, that's a whole month. But not quite as long as you've been locked up. And Gretel could see that the witch was getting impatient. One morning, the witch ordered Gretel to make a fire. After a while, she told Gretel to climb up into the oven to see if the fire was ready. But Gretel said, "How can I get into the oven to see?" The witch became angry and climbed up into the oven to show Gretel how to look at the fire. Quick as a wink, Gretel gave the witch a shove that sent her tumbling right into the oven, and then she banged the door shut. Gretel quickly freed Hansel, and having nothing to fear, they explored the witch's house. They found boxes of jewels and gold coins in every corner. Yep. See, there's the wicked witch. And Gretel just giving her a little shove. Well, probably a big shove, because Gretel's much smaller than the witch. And that must be one really big oven to fit a whole person. She was a very evil witch. After filling their pockets, Hansel and Gretel set out for home. At the edge of the field, they saw the beautiful white bird again. The children followed the bird all the way to their father's house, where they lived happily the rest of their days. The end. So I hope you liked Hansel and Gretel. It's a fun story. I think that maybe you should talk it over and see if Hansel and Gretel are the good guys or the bad guys. Is the Wicked Witch the good guy or the bad guy? So think about that. And I would love to hear what you think. Let me know what you think about Hansel and Gretel going into some stranger's house. What do you think about the stepmother wanting to get rid of the children just because she's hungry? Do you think that's fair? I don't think that's fair. I could be wrong, but I want to hear what you think. So you can have your parents or your guardian leave comments in the video, and we'll take a look at those later. Okay, so hopefully you'll tune in lots of times today because we're going to have lots of special guests. And I know that Princess Ariel is coming to visit me today. I don't know what time, but I know Princess Ariel is coming to visit me today. So you'll just have to keep checking in and see if you can see her. And then she'll be ready to answer questions for you. So it'll be lots of fun. We've got lots of fun things going on today. All right, everybody. I will see you later. Have a wonderful day.